Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rantz alongside Tommy Krysan here with you on this Hump Day edition. TK joining us from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. I'm at an undisclosed location presented by the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Of course, uh, today, everyone's sort of talking, Tommy, about locally, at least in the Baton Rouge area, LSU and all, sort of talking about this decision by LSU's now four offensive staff members that are going to be coaching Ole Miss throughout the duration of the playoffs. Um, Obviously LSU had to sign off on this because these are four coaches that are leaving Ole Miss, coming to LSU, but now they're going back to Ole Miss. I would assume they're going to pull a little bit of double duty as far as doing LSU work, recruiting and whatnot, some of the day, and Ole Miss coaching some of the day, getting ready for the playoffs. Some people are a little concerned about this. Where are you on that?
I think it's just part of what's happening in the world of college football or NFL junior football now. I mean, there's a memorandum of understanding. That's the new buzz thing, MOU, that, they are going to return to LSU. They're under contract. This is simply like we're loaning you for the duration of the playoff. I don't have a problem with it because there's so much other stuff going on in college football that's different than it was 10 years ago. And I mean, these coaches, they're full time at coaching, so that they can handle two chores. I mean, been done before. Maybe secretly, there's been guys who were still somewhere, but we know that happened with LSU baseball about 6, 7 years ago. That somebody was working for LSU and doing something for another school on LSU's dime. But so I don't have a problem with it. The people that are worried about it, I mean, find something else to talk about because I don't think it's that big of a deal. And I think it shows that Ole Miss, that Lane Kiffin does care about Ole Miss. He cares about those players, and he wants them players to have the best opportunity to be successful. And by these coaches going in there, I think that helps that team's chances at success.
Well, one of the guys that we know is not going to be on the staff is Frank Wilson. I know that's a little
I
bit
know.
disappointing, as he was a beloved figure by the high school coaches in the state of Louisiana, by the players on the team, by the fans. I mean, just a good dude. I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago, I brought some people by for a little quick tour of the facility. Excuse me, Tommy, of the facility at LSU, the practice facility of some members of AMG, and Frank took time to come out and spend 10 minutes with with some executives and tell you a little bit about LSU football, take a few pictures, and we couldn't have been nicer. So that's a little bit disappointing. That Frank's not going to survive. Not shocking, but disappointing.
Yeah, it is, and because if he was going to stay, that would have already been announced. When Lane Kiffin said he will coach the bowl game, this is before they knew they were going to the Texas Bowl. That kind of told me he's coaching the bowl game, but he's not going to be around after that. And I'm sure there's some kind of reason. But again, it's with all these decisions, it's up to Lane Kiffin. Okay, it's not up to the fans. It's not up to you and I. It's not up to the people watching Sports Shows Daily. Lane Kiffin's the guy making the money to win football games at LSU. So you got to defer to him on any and all of these decisions. Frank Wilson will land on his feet somewhere. I don't doubt that. But it is he went to St. Aug. He played at Nichols. Was a head coach at McNeese over there in Lake Charles for a couple of years. I mean, he's kind of got a lot of Louisiana in his blood. But I'm like you. It doesn't look like he's staying in Baton Rouge with LSU.
Um,
Don't
the
look, hey, I'm telling you what, he may end up at Southern with Marshall Falk.
He'll be end up somewhere bigger than that, Tom. You're talking about a guy who's one
I
of
said,
the
I said he
preeminent.
might.
Yeah, I mean he's one of the preeminent recruiters in the country, and a guy who's been a head coach at two different schools. I mean he'll be fine, but it's just it's a shame they couldn't get it worked out, or we don't know the history. We know they had history before years and years ago. So um, the the reaction by the Notre Dame athletic director about them not making the playoffs has just continued to snowball throughout the week. Notre Dame has been one of those programs that people either love or they hate. I know you're on the hate side, growing up in the parish and not being a Notre Dame fan. But this is the way that Notre Dame has handled not getting into the playoffs. Look at the contrast that how classy Vanderbilt has handled not getting into the playoffs versus Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame may feel like they've got a bigger argument than Vanderbilt. Both teams finished 10-2. Notre Dame's going to say we won 10 in a row. We've got a Heisman finalist, all this stuff. So does Vandy. But both, one handled it with class, and one has just been a whiny little you know what.
Well, yeah, you're right. No, there's no in between with Notre Dame, and I think it gives fuel to the haters. But I'll say this, Ronnie, this may shock you when I say this. They should be in the playoff instead of Alabama, in my opinion. If I had a vote, okay, because I think they're a better football team, and I know they won 10 in a row, and the average difference was 29 points or whatever, but it was a weak schedule. But I think if you really have to be honest, they should be in and not Alabama. And then that whole thing about the committee having them above Miami until the last week. I mean, that's not. I mean, they got to change the way they're doing this. I don't know if I'm smart enough to figure out the way to do it, but I mean, it's like we said the other day. It opens up some valid questions and criticism the way that committee has handled this and other things. And then the big thing now, what's worse, Notre Dame not being in this year, or Florida State when their quarterback got hurt a couple of years ago and they were undefeated. They were undefeated. They won them all. And, but I guess the NCAA, which I don't know what it is or it isn't, but the old saying, I don't care what you say about me, say something. People are talking about college football.
Just because the system is broke, or it's not perfect, excuse me, it's not broke. The system is not perfect for the playoffs, and there's some obvious fixes, doesn't mean that it's going to get fixed. Look at the transfer portal that's going on in college athletics. We've said for years that's an easy fix. That doesn't involve going to court. That doesn't involve judges and rulings and all that. That is something that could be fixed to where you set a rule and it minimizes the transfer portal, or allows you to have one or none, or go back to sitting out a year, whatever the case may be. If your coach leaves, you can leave. Whatever. You could set all kinds of precedent and rules that could fix the transfer portal in all sports, and they refuse to do it. And they just sit by. And last year, Tommy, at one point, there were over 10,000 baseball players across the country in all levels that were in the transfer portal. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And so that said, just because the obvious thing to do is to fix it, doesn't mean they're going to fix it. I would love to see the playoffs expanded. I don't know what, but here's the thing. If we're expanding the college football playoffs, do we have to include the group of five? Is it mandatory to include the group of five, meaning like the James Madisons of the world and the Tulanes? I mean, James Madison played one Power 4 school this year and got beat by 14 points. Louisville, it's not even ranked. So, I mean, look, James Madison and Tulane have zero chance of winning the national championship. Zero chance. Everybody else has a chance. If BYU and Notre Dame were in the playoffs, they would have a chance. There's nobody that wouldn't doubt that Notre Dame wouldn't have a chance to make it, to win the national championship this year more than ever, right? There's no super obvious power team this year. But as long as we're trying to make sure everybody gets a trophy and we're worried about the Power 4, then if we're if we're wanting to do that, Tommy, then they have to expand so that you can get more of the big boy schools in there that have a legitimate chance. And you can still, have one or two of these Power 4 schools in there as well to feel like they've got a shot. But I mean, football is not baseball. Football is not basketball. The underdog does not have a chance. The team that is bigger, stronger, faster, stronger is going to win 99% of the time. Could a Tulane win a game? Could Tulane go to Ole Miss and potentially win a game? Sure. They could have a day, right? Troy beat LSU. UAB beat LSU. Whatever. There's things that can happen. You can have a day, but you're surely not going to have 3 or 4 days. Tulane's not going to win the national championship. Could they go upset somebody? Yeah, maybe. and so my point is that like, let's expand the field at least to 16 would be my hope.
Yeah, the more you put in it, you're still going to have somebody say, "I got left out." But it's a little easier to say, "Hey, you got left out." Like in basketball, that 69th and 70th team. Well, you should have done differently. Well, I heard, there's a couple people saying just go to 24 teams instead of 12. But they got to change it to let the group of five have their own playoffs. Okay, they'll make money, or maybe not. They won't. Might not make money, but
They're not going to make the money. I mean, Tommy, look
and
at it like this: group of. Do you watch one AA football playoffs? No, and you went to Southeastern.
Well,
You know,
well, I would if Southeastern or
right,
McNeese or Nichols was in it,
right,
but other than
but
that, I no.
right. And so my point is that if none of us watch the one AA playoffs unless you are a hardcore fan of your team. Okay, we might watch the one AA national championship game if there's nothing on that night. So you're simply going to be a step above that. So no, I don't agree that if all of a sudden the group of four had their own playoff, that all of a sudden it would be this moneymaker, because I don't think there would. I don't think there would. It'd be glorified one AA. I mean, most of the teams in the group of four should be playing one AA anyway, or FCS now. So
Yeah.
so so it really the only chance they have for money is to have that seat at the table, to not necessarily have the home run chance of maybe getting in the playoffs, but to be able to get a piece of that pie, to be able to stay relevant so that they can go play Florida in week 3 and get a paycheck for 1.5 million. Like, that's why those schools still play at that level of football. But I look, I would be okay. Like, the bowls are getting out of control. I think we're seeing a precedent, Tommy, where we had 4 teams from the Big 12 refuse to play in a bowl game. 2 that were selected to play had to pay a $500,000 fine to not play in a bowl game. They said, we don't want to play in a bowl game. Here's a $500,000 check. They went down to 2 other teams in the Big 12 and at 5-7 records, and both of them refused to play. Now, they didn't get fined because they didn't qualify. They weren't 6-6. They didn't have to. But if you're 6-6 or above, and you're in a Power 4 conference, and you've got these bowl tie-ins, you're obligated to play. And if you don't, there's a fine. We're going to have to do some new math now, Tommy. They're going to have to raise these fines significantly. $500,000 obviously isn't enough if you're in a Power 4 conference. You're going to go, well, we'd rather not play. We're going through a coach transition. It's going to cost us $500,000 or more to go play in this bowl game and travel wherever anyway. Let's just pay $500,000, not have to deal with it. Well, now you need to raise it to $2 million, I guess, because you can't not play in bowl games. That can't not become the precedent. That's why these TV contracts exist. ESPN is giving billions of dollars to conferences for programming. Part of that programming is the Independence Bowl on a Thursday at 3:00. That's just the way it is. And so if you want the money, you gotta do the dance. And the dance is, hey man, you go 6-6, you go play in the bowl game. And so that's a whole can of worms. Maybe the playoffs expanding, Tommy, can save the bowls a little bit, right? You can use some of those bowl games maybe for locations and sites and things like that if you choose.
Yeah, it's definitely a mess. The bowl games have been on thin ice. It wouldn't be for the ESPN money, then they wouldn't, some of them wouldn't exist. And there's been talk, go back to the Notre Dame thing, that, they didn't want to go play because it's on ESPN and they got the thing with NBC and they didn't want to help ESPN's ratings. But I don't know, that's speculation. But, it's just craziness. The NCAA is a mythical organization. They have no power, no strength. The conferences have more power. And like you said, somebody said, hey, if you don't go to a bowl game, you're not eligible for the playoff the next year. Well, then people like Notre Dame, they would be in the bowl game because they don't want to, be ineligible the next year for the playoffs. That's not going to fly, but, somebody said it. But it's just a mess, man. I just wish that, we could have more, just watch the football game, watch the talented guys and coaches, but it's just a different world, much different than what we all grew up with.
Tommy, give me an update on where we're at with the Pelicans bet. 82 games Tommy's betting against the Pelicans this year.
I am 11-14, so the Pelicans are 14-11 against the spread. They lost a close one the other night. They were getting 8.5 points and lost by 3. And they'll host Portland tomorrow night. So I'll get on the Trailblazers, but there was the Spurs that beat them the other night by 3 points. So, but the Pelicans are the Pelicans. I'm gonna stick to it and see what happens. But I was 10-9, and now I'm 11-14. So a little bad stretch here. And we'll keep up with it. We'll tell people about it on Sports Shorts Radio and Sports Shorts Daily. So, but they host Portland tomorrow night in New Orleans, and that's another scheduling thing. You got high school football games in the Dome, and then I mean, who put these schedules together, Ron? It certainly wasn't the Texas Collegiate League.
Well, there's been plenty of times, Tommy, where there's been events in the Dome and the arena. I'll actually be down in New Orleans on Friday. I'll be doing the sidelines for all 3 high school state championship games for the LHSAA TV network with Jeff Palermo, Garrett Wolver, and others. Looking forward to that, working with Jeff Schneider, Steve Schneider, and all the gang. So I'll wear my comfortable shoes because I'll be walking the sidelines for 3 straight games.
Yeah, you're going to need that, but you'll be all right. At least you'll be indoors.
Exactly. All right, TK, I gotta jump off, headed to Lake Charles for some Gumbo Gator business. Tell us about Tremonti's on the way out.
Well, today is Wednesday, so that means it's their hamburger special burger and fries for $6.99. You can dine in, or you can get it to go. You can order it online at tremontis.com. That's each and every Wednesday, not just today. Great deal on the famous burger that they sell at the Rougarou games. $6.99 a burger and fries, and of course, they got everything you need for your Christmas orders online, tremontis.com. Turkeys, hams, brisket, prime rib, all the side dishes, the wine, the bourbon, the liquor. It's all at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Jefferson Highway in Baton Rouge, right down the street from Parkview Baptist Church and School. So do check out Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. This Saturday, Sports Shorts Radio will be at the Bruley Walk-Ons. We'll be over there at the Walk-Ons in Bruley. Come join us and check out Sports Shorts Radio, which is on ESPN Radio, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and Lake Charles. On behalf of Ronnie Rantz, I'm Tommy Krysan. Have a great Wednesday, everyone. Next episode of Sports Shorts Daily, Friday morning. Talk to you then.